to go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to the Gulfport Reports. I am Tracy Yanez and I'm the director of the Gulfport Chamber of Commerce. Today's Gulfport Reports is an update on education. We're hearing from the superintendents, including Mr. Glen East, Superintendent of Gulfport School District, and Mr. Roy Gill, Superintendent of Harrison County School District, and Dr. Carey Wright, State Superintendent of Education for Mississippi. So I want to welcome you. If this is your first time attending one of your events, if you're not already a chamber member, we encourage you to reach out. We'd love to have you as a member. There are many benefits so that we can help share with you, and it can be found on our website at mscoastchamber.com. I want to thank today's sponsors, Hancock Whitney, Ely Gallagher Hardy Architects, The First Bank, and BXS Insurance, a subsidiary of Bancorp South. And we also want to make a big special thank you to our series sponsor, Memorial Hospital, and we're going to hear a word from them right now.
Doctors at Memorial Hospital at Gulfport are actively working to stay ahead of the coronavirus while also preparing for the worst.
We've canceled all elective outpatient procedures to decrease traffic in and out of the hospital. We are in the process of expanding our testing sites, our outpatient testing sites, from 1 clinic to 6 clinics. We hope to have that up and rolling by Friday, and there's a potential we could have it sooner. If so, we'll make that announcement. We've also started a hotline. 867-5000 is a first step for people to call if they have questions as well.
Our case rates are down 40%. 40% of the people who are at risk have been vaccinated already.
Thank you again, Memorial Hospital. And it is because of these generous sponsors that we're able to offer today's program complimentary. So at the Chamber of Commerce, our mission is to connect, inform, and advocate and develop. And we do that through a number of strategic efforts. And so we have scholarships that we're offering. As a matter of fact, those are closing this week. We're looking forward to reviewing those. Those are being offered across all of our divisions. And then we also, for instance, supporting small businesses. We have a takeout blitz. I'm putting some of these events in our chat room so that you can click on those and participate or get more information. We'll have a takeout blitz next Wednesday at Rock and Roll Sushi. Again, trying to promote those small businesses. And then like informative programs like this, where we're trying to bridge partnerships help the community be informed, and just be well-rounded community overall. So thank you all again for being here. We're going to go ahead and move on. The Gulfport Reports is designed, as I said, to better connect leaders in Gulfport. Each Gulfport Report features a program, guest speaker who might be a city leader, a business leader in the community, or community leader. And so today our guest speakers, as I said, are Harrison County School District Superintendent Roy Gill, Gulfport School District Superintendent Glen East, and the State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Carey Wright. And we're going to start with an update from Mr. Gill, who has spent 35 years in education and been a superintendent for 5 years. And congratulations on your upcoming retirement. I know the work is not done yet, as you were saying during our brief time together before the program. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And you know, it is a pleasure to be able to come to you today to share the trials and tribulations that we have had over the last year. But we always have to remember, and I had the opportunity several years back to sit down and talk with Dr. John Kelly, who works in our city government, and talk about economic development and how that ties in with education. And often those two things do not come together, because when we look about and talk about economic development, we have to talk about, big companies want to look at what is the educational system that you're trying to bring me in. And that is such a key component that we have to look at. And I'm blessed to be surrounded in a county with 5 school districts that are all A school districts, that we can sell Harrison County to be the best in the country, because we have some awesome school districts with awesome leaders. Thanks to Dr. Carey Wright, our state superintendent has continued to push forward through this pandemic and lead this state to where very few states have been over the last year. And personally, I'd like to thank Dr. Wright for all that she's done to help us maneuver this past year. It has been unbelievable. You know, we talk about school districts, and we talk about how it ties into economic development. It begins with us, and it begins with teaching and learning. We have to build the workforce. We have to continue to stay on course. And over this last year, as Glenn said earlier, we can prepare for a hurricane. We know how to do that. We didn't know how to handle this. But through days and nights of continuing to work, I am proud to say, and I have spent my entire life here in Mississippi, my entire life here in Harrison County. Mississippi is one of the leaders in the nation, and we should be very proud of that. So I was asked to tell a little bit about the district and things that are going on. Yes, we are the 4th largest school district in the state of Mississippi. And we have a little under 15,000 students. We have 22 campuses, and we are actually growing by leaps and bounds. In August, we will open up 2 new schools. We will open up West Harrison Middle School, and North Gulfport K-8 School has been renovated to be a K-8. Next August, we will finalize the 3-school project that the bond issue was passed a couple of years ago, Creek Bend Elementary Middle School. And this will continue to support the growth of the district, both academically and in population. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that as we open up West Harrison Middle School, it will be on the grounds of West Harrison High School, which is the number 3 high school in the state of Mississippi. And when you can go out and sell to businesses that are trying to come into the area and say, you've got top-rated schools, that is critical. And that is one of the things that I've always tried to make sure that not only do our business partners know, but our parents and our students, because too often we lose our brightest and our best people to out of state. And being a native Mississippi, we want to make sure that we continue to promote Mississippi to be the best. And I can tell you, through Dr. Wright's leadership, Mississippi is on the map, and people are taking note of what Mississippi educators are doing, not only historically, but over the last year. You hear all the time, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have accomplished over the last year. Through Dr. Wright's leadership, we were on every district in the state of Mississippi, and I know I may be kind of hitting on some of Dr. Wright's points, but Harrison County was able to go to a one-to-one, not only electronic tablet, but we were able to put in hands a laptop computer of every child in Harrison County School District. And folks, when you have over 14,000 students, that is phenomenal. And that is one of the things in today's world, kids have to adapt and be able to do things both online, computerized, because every job that you look at, every profession, they have to have technical skills. And I can guarantee you, you put technology in the students' hands, they will be able to do it. And so we're very proud through all of this that we've been able to roll that out. Looking at teaching and learning, we were able to open the doors with everything that things that we had to do to help bridge those students to make sure that they continue to be progressive. You know, we've made great strides, and that's one of the things that I've often said, and I've often talked to our teachers. We cannot let this affect our future generations, because those are the people that we need to make sure that we prepare for in the future. And if we don't do that, we as educators have not fulfilled our duties. And I am blessed to say, we do our benchmark assessments, and I can tell you our students in grades 3 and up, we have made great strides. Yes, there are some issues with our lower students that we have worked on. Through also federal dollars that are coming up, we've able to put in close to 30 tutors to come into our elementary schools to help alleviate some of those issues, to make sure that we've given additional support to those students. We've added time in day and pulled those students after school to help to make sure that we are addressing those issues that they have. And it's just amazing what teachers will do, not only through the pandemic that we've had to do this. We've also, can't forget, we had those 2 hurricanes that we had to deal with, which I lost an entire building of a school, the part of that. Through all of this, we were able to get that school back going in less than 2 weeks. But those teachers came in on the weekend and prepared distance learning for those students that could not, since that building could not return. And, you know, that is just pure amazement. I sat there, and very close to my heart, because it was Socia Elementary where I grew up, and to see those teachers working, I would be up there at that information out. So we rolled school back shortly, with the exception of that school. And for those people who do not realize the task that teachers have done and the amazing job that they have done, go talk to a teacher, go listen to their stories. It is heart-wrenching and heartwarming what they have gone through over the past year. And we're very blessed to be able to partner with Singing River Health and Memorial Hospital to offer the vaccines to most of our teachers. Anybody who want to, we have really worked hard and diligently to keep our teachers in the classroom to help educate those students. And we're very blessed to be able to see the progress that our teachers and students have done. You know, and that's one of the things that we look at the now, but we have to plan for the future, because our kindergarten and first grade students will be our graduates in 10, 11 years. And we've got to make sure that those students are prepared for the world 10 years or 12 years down the road. And that is the most critical point that we have done, because 15, 20 years, they will be our workforce that are sitting here on the computer talking about economic development. So it begins with education. And I am just blessed to be able to be a part of it. And I just want to thank you for everyone, what y'all have done. Dr. Wright, our fellow superintendents, Mr. East, Mississippi should be proud. And I know that I am very proud to be part of a phenomenal educational system in Mississippi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. And I just want to note you had a shout out on congratulations to Harrison County teachers for being added as National Board Certified teachers. I know that's a great accomplishment for teachers and for our education system. It's a tribute to, you know, how much work, like you said, that this put forth and dedication. So now we're going to move on to Mr. East, Superintendent of the Gulfport School District. Let's see, how many years? Unmute.
So 15 years ago, 16 years ago, a group of 5 board members entrusted me with this district. But like Roy, I've been doing this for a long time. Started off at Anderson Elementary School as a 4th grade teacher. And can't speak for Roy, but I think today I'd love to still be teaching 4th grade at Anderson Elementary School, to be honest. I'm going to echo a lot of things that Roy said about our teachers first. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a group of men and women who have tried hard every day and have been successful meeting the needs of children in this new world that we're dealing with right now. You know, we did the choice. You could stay either virtual or you could come face to face. When we started the school year, we learned so much about how to do that and do it better. If we were starting over today, we definitely would do a better job than we did back in March. I go back and I start looking at the lemonade that we had starting in March. WLOX, Mississippi Power, Rick Williams from WLOX called and said, look, can we do some hourly TV shows to be able to get to the children so they can watch it during the summer educationally? Carol Ladner, who became Admiral C's in our program, began producing videos, 30-minute videos, using books and trying to teach the skills that we knew in our district were skills that we struggled with to teach in normal times. We tried to get those out quickly. That partnership was so important to us. The teachers, and Mr. Gill has already said it, that have spent hours and hours preparing both for face-to-face learning and for virtual learning, and also for asynchronous learning, which is some packets for those parents that they may have been transplanted somewhere, but wanted that Gulfport information and that education piece to carry with them. So we have to look back over this year and are very thankful for our teachers and our principals in our schools and for the community that has stepped up. Would be remiss if I also did not mention Memorial and Singing River. We vaccinated over 660 of our 1,000 employees Wednesday a week ago. So most of our employees have been vaccinated either on their own or through that process. I remember early on, we were sharing PPEs between the Gulfport School District and Memorial and just trying to make everything work for each other. And of course, I also think that's a coast thing. You know, we always pull together. We're very resilient. We understand what it means to battle through, to do what we have to do to take care of our children and our community. So those partnerships, I think, Roy, in the wake of hurricanes, we've learned that we just kind of come together. Nothing else matters but our mission. And all the competition and so on and so forth kind of goes away because we're working to take care of Harrison County and then, quite frankly, our coastal region here. Very proud of what our partners, our city leaders, our business leaders have been able to help us get through in delivering education in ways that we were okay with, but we've had to become great with very quickly. So thanks to them and their input. The mental health piece that we're dealing with, we always have dealt with it in our schools, but you've got outside organizations right now, behavioral health, Pine Belt, groups that are working to help us with our students as we pull out of this pandemic and that isolation and quarantining that's been going on now for a year. So those are things that are on our front end. But again, we've got strong partnerships that are allowing those things to happen and spread across our community. So great job to that piece. Also, I'll echo Mr. Gill's points. Educationally, we continue to battle every day. We know that the majority of our students on our data, we're as good as we were before the COVID for the most part, but we do, like Mr. Gill mentioned, we do have a number of students that are struggling. So we're working on ways to pull them back in. We're going to have a tremendous summer camp program, which will be based on education, but also on the social emotional, just making sure everybody is okay. All of that going through the federal funding that is rotating through our State Department down to us, just trying to bring us back to the whole child concept of education and personal use and culture and the whole 9 yards. I also will take this time to thank Dr. Wright upon her arrival as State Superintendent. Mississippi is in many pockets does very well, and there's some that we struggle. But Dr. Wright has made sure that we have pushed this state harder, I think, and further than we have in several decades, quite frankly. We are more focused today on student achievement of all students, no matter what grade level, no matter where they come from, what zip codes, whatever you want to talk about in the words that people use today politically. But there is a major push to make sure we take care of every kid that walks into our doors. We're fortunate along the coast that I think we do a pretty good job with that. But even we, all 11 of us, I think have grown in that aspect as we have continued to improve student achievement in our state and in the nation. And I'm not going to steal all the thunder about all the data that she probably has, so I hope to stop right there with that piece, but also do to thank her and her team there in Jackson for what they are doing. The Gulfport School District is, we're looking into next year. As you know, we'll begin our flexible calendar. So school will start on July the 23rd for us next year. It's a 9 weeks on, 2 weeks off type of program. And when I say off, I say that lightly because we actually will be running what we call intersessions. And in those intersessions, we will begin to immediately try to accelerate those students that are struggling in that first 9 weeks and the second 9 weeks and so on. So rather than waiting to summer to begin to address some of those skills gaps, we will address those during that 2-week program. We also will have enrichment. We'll have things where we'll have students that can come in again, working on the social emotional piece, field trips. One of the things that I know that our summer camp will do, they actually go down and throw the old seine nets. Now, excuse me, the cast nets. You would think that that's something everybody knows how to do, but you'll be surprised as our folks have moved in here to the coast. Some of them don't know what those look like, but from that seine net, you can count crabs, you can count shrimp, you can count bottle caps, whatever comes off the floor of the sound there. And so it's all a good teachable moment. So again, trying to make sure that as we move from this pandemic atmosphere, that we can pick up the pieces for those families that need help because we have been isolated and so on and so forth. Some are virtual, some are face-to-face, but just continue to work forward. So it's a great moment there. So the flexible schedule helps us to do that piece. It also, one of Gulfport's weaknesses is attendance. We have, in the day's new definition of attendance, if you're absent from school, you're absent. And so we're just trying to meet the needs of our families that have to travel or who don't have the luxury of vacation time during the summer. As a tourism industry here, their hottest time of the year is in the summertime, literally and figuratively. So, having those casinos and having our hotels and our little pedal boats on the beach and sailboats on the beach, and those individuals cannot get off during the summer. That's when they're making their largest part of their money economically. So having them have a chance to, in a 2-week intersession, possibly to take that family vacation. We know in Gulfport, family is the most influential people or influential power, if you will, over children. I mean, it is your family that you go to first. So having able to reduce that family time for them is powerful. I'll also tell you that you probably saw the story on WLX about Kid Academy, which is our largest daycare center, and how they're going to adjust their schedule to help us in meeting the intercession piece. So we're looking forward to that change in our system. We're also exploring this concept of a virtual academy, where we have learned that there are some students that really learn very well in that mode. We've had a couple of 3 young men that probably would have been in trouble all year long had they been face to face, but who are actually on the virtual world outstandingly performing and have improved their their achievement levels exponentially during this course of this year, all because it's just them focused. Of course, 2 of them are brothers, so they're kind of together, but they don't have that distraction of the classroom. So we're learning that this virtual piece is pretty good, and we may need to stick with that for longer than just this pandemic. And so we're trying to put a plan in place to do that as well as we move forward. The biggest fun I think that we're going to have is graduation for Gulfport. We'll be back in the Coliseum. Our seniors are excited. We are not going to do the prom concept with the dance, but we are going to have a senior formal where they'll go down and have a prom party atmosphere, sit down meal, and be able to continue to watch those social guidelines and from the CDC and from our health department in Mississippi. So that brings back normalcy to the American high school. You know, we are about academics. We want to perform. We want to be the best. You know, we have this large group of kids this year that are the 30+ club on ACT. But at the end of the day, the American high school is also built around that social friends working together. And it's also in our corporations. It's no longer where one person runs the place. It's teams of people. That communication is important. Sitting across the table, seeing them, sharing with them, successes, failures, those are important things that we're going to be able to get back to in this American high school situation as we move forward. All of those things are very positive for what we're trying to do. Our biggest weakness right now is we probably do have about 150 students that we're going to have to do some major catch-up time with, acceleration time with. We've identified them. We're still working with them. We're trying to do what we need to do and respect the fact that they are virtual for very good reasons. You know, you have those health conditions that you don't want to run that risk in your family. But we also know we have to do some work with those students as we come back. Actually beginning this summer and offer those summer programs and then our intercessions as we move forward. So it's a great day in that world. I want to also talk about the fact that, again, our teachers, and Roy, you can shake your head yes or no, but our teachers are tired. I mean, you could see it in their face. This has been a marathon, and it's like that last 3 miles of that marathon where you're working on that energy. I'm almost there, but your body is saying, stop, stop, stop. I walked through school buildings today though, and I can see the tired eyes, but the smile is still there. The desire to make sure what our mission is in the Gulfport School District to prepare these kids for the future, lifelong learners, productive members of society, those buzzwords that we use, that drive is still there. So we're looking hard to do something for those teachers this summer to give them some time to relax as well and work on their social and emotional development and so on and so forth. Again, great day in our school district as we move forward, trying to do what is right for every kid, every day at the end of the pandemic. Looking forward to being able to sit at a ball game next year and not have to worry about things. Again, the American high school stuff that we've been missing, football, basketball, track, softball, cross country, those kind of things are all important. You know, at our high school, almost 2/3 of our children are involved in that type of an extracurricular activity. The other third are involved in our club system. So those are things that we're really looking forward to getting back to some normalcy, or at least have mastered the rules for those things a little better than we're going into this school year. So a lot of lemonade has been made, y'all, during this school year. So, you know, we started off, what was it, Roy? March, we were with spring break, March 17th, somewhere in there, 13th, when we got the word and we all scrambled and had to work out your children pretty quickly. But here we are. You're beginning to see the sigh of relief. Okay, we think we have a handle on this now. Roy mentioned the hurricanes. We know what to do. We know there's an end point. We know how to do that. with this situation, you would do something, get it planned, and then something would change immediately. And when you're working with Roy, 1,400 kids, us 6,400 kids, turn on a dime is difficult. So we were able to turn on dimes a lot and do some things well, and also learn a lot. So, but we really are looking forward to getting back to a more normal world with that virtual piece still there. We are going to really stress that piece for some of our children who would like to choose that route. So thank you very much for having me this morning. And again, you're fixing to be followed by a lady who is, and we don't have to say this, you know, guys, I mean, we don't have to say what we're saying, but she truly has, since arriving in Mississippi from Maryland, pushed our state to dig deeper, to push children further. And I cannot overemphasize the word all children, no matter what zip code they live in, what conditions they have, strengths, weaknesses. She is challenging us to push our children forward. So I think you'll be very pleased to listen to her and the data that she can give you, and also her vision for Mississippi as we go forward. So Dr. Wright, thank you very much.
And I think Mr. East just did my introduction.
Well, let me start by
Welcome.
saying, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. And, you know, I tell you what, you've got two of the finest before me, because these gentlemen have truly been models for other superintendents around the state for what we were dealt, right? What we were handed. But I want to kind of refresh a little bit about where we were and where we are and where we're headed. Very, very proud of the state. So we, as the title says, we are talking about Mississippi succeeding and continuing to succeed, and the challenges that these gentlemen have just described to you so aptly. We are rising to meet those challenges. So I start every presentation that I make with referring back to our vision and mission, because I think it's really important that we keep in front of us, as we always do, what are we here for? And we're here to create that world-class educational system for all of our children, so that they have everything that they need when they walk our stage in grade 12 to be successful, regardless of what they choose to do, whether it's in college or career or in the military or whatever that might be. And we surround ourselves and focus on these 6 goals. We have had these 6 goals since I guess for about the past 6 years. And you can see, and I'm glad, you know, Glenn lifted this up, you do see the word all and every, because education is about all and every child, all the time, every day. And so whether we're talking about proficiency and showing growth, or whether we're talking about graduation, being ready for high school and career, and our little ones having access to high quality instructional programs at that age, all of our teachers have in schools being effective, every community using data, and then all of our districts obviously being rated C or higher. So we are focusing constantly on those goals, and we have been, and still are. But let me take you back to where we were, because I think it's really important to kind of set the context in, in 2013 about where we were. We were literally rated F in quality counts. We were literally the 50th in the nation. We had a real issue around the honesty gap, I'm going to call it, because we were producing assessment results that were saying our children were about 65 to 70% proficient, and yet in fact they really were. When NAEP came out, we were really about 22% proficient for our 4th graders. Our 4th graders with NAEP were literally reading more than a full year below grade level. And so we had a lot of issues that we needed to address. Our high school graduation rate at that time was only at 75.5%. That was the 2nd lowest amongst all of our neighbors. So let's talk about where we are today. Today, we are now rated as a C- on quality counts. We got a B for equity. We're now 39th in the nation. So we have literally come from 50th to 39th. So anytime somebody says you were last, you can say, no, actually we're not. Our graduation rate is the highest it's ever been. It's now at 87.7. We just announced that. And when NAEP came out in the fall of 19, which was the last time it was administered, was in 19, we were #1 in the nation for our gains in 4th grade reading and math. We were higher than everybody else in the nation in 4th grade, and we ranked 3rd in 8th grade, math and 4th and 8th grade reading. So, and the other part of it that's really important, our children of poverty, of which you know Mississippi has a lot, outscored all their counterparts across the nation. So our children who needed it the most, so let you know, back to what Glenn and Roy were saying, our teachers have been doing an absolutely amazing job to see where we are. And now Quality Counts came back out and ranked Mississippi as the second most improved state in the nation. So I think it's really important that we have these talking points. Next slide. We reorganized the State Department. We knew we needed to do that. We adopted very rigorous standards, the most rigorous we've ever had. We aligned our assessments to those standards and to meet the rigor of NAEP. We've got a strong accountability system, and we started working on building the capacity of our teachers and leaders through our professional development program, because we knew that they just needed more help in knowing how to teach children how to read, because literacy became a huge focus for us. So let's talk about our achievements very quickly. I want you to know, with our early learning collaboratives, the National Institute of Early Education Research has named Mississippi as only one of 4 states in the nation for meeting all of their quality indicators for early childhood and for pre-K. That's huge. And that lets us know that what we need now, we need more of them. We would love to have more money put into early childhood programming, because we know that a strong foundation in early childhood leads to an even stronger success in K-12. Next slide. Where we were when students in 2018, we had about 1/3 of our kids only coming in scoring kindergarten ready. But at the end of the year, thanks to those kindergarten teachers, we had more than 2/3 of them meeting the end of the year target. So my point is, imagine if we had stronger pre-K, what our kindergarten teachers would inherit to even be able to take those children even further. Our 3rd grade reading assessment. We instituted a higher bar in 2019, and guess what? Our children met that bar, and we were so proud of what we were doing. That let me know that our K-3, this is not a 3rd grade issue. Let me say that again. The test may be in 3rd grade, but it's kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade that we build to that. That let us know that our K-3 teachers were really doing an amazing job with our children. Here's our record of success. You can see every single year since we started our new assessment, which is much more rigorous than the former one. We have the levels 4 and 5 are proficient and advanced in ELA and math, and you can see every single year we continue to climb. Our National Assessment of Education Progress, this is known as the nation's report card. This is a 10-year span in both 4th and 8th grade reading and math. Statistically significant growth. And that is why Mississippi got such recognition when our 2019 NAEP scores arrived. I love this slide. These are all of our trophies that Mississippi earned. All those hardworking teachers that are out there that did this. Number 1 in the nation for our gains in 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. And on the right, as I said, 3rd in the nation for our gains in 8th grade math, 4th for our gains in 8th grade reading. And over a 10-year period, we ranked number 2 in the nation for gains in 8th grade math, 4th grade math, and 4th grade reading. Lots of things to be proud of. And as I said, our graduation rate, look where it's come from, look where it is, highest it's ever been. This lets us know teachers are keeping children engaged in learning and keeping them there so that they do graduate with their cohorts. As I said, we were the 2nd most improved state in the nation. This is the 3rd consecutive year we have earned national recognition for our growth. So when we say we're in the nation's eye, we are in the nation's eye. We're getting all kinds of phone calls wanting to know, what's Mississippi's story? What's happening down here? Because the children and teachers and leaders of our state have totally changed the trajectory of our state in education. We also won an award from the Annie E. Casey Foundation because Mississippi experienced the greatest improvement in education from 19 to 20, moving our ranking up to 39. And we got real recognition for our gains in high school graduation, as well as our gains in 4th grade literacy. The Southern Regional Education Board awarded the State Leadership Award to the Mississippi Department of Education in 2020 for our increases in literacy and mathematics, and also building these communities that are focused on school improvement, particularly in our middle grades, because that was an area of focus that we really took on. SREB also recognized us because of the links between K-12 and college persistence. This is huge for us. Not only are children, look at the last two bullets, because those are the two that I think are really the most important bullets on the slide. We were the only state in the region, and the Southern Regional Education Board is 16 states, only state in the region in which first-year persistence rate of first-time, full-time students in public four-year schools increased from 2012 to 2017. And that meant more first-time, full-time Mississippi students returned to college for a second year. That is so significant. The children did not give up and did not drop out. I get a lot of questions around assessments and accountability for this upcoming year. Statewide assessments will take place this year. The Department of, even if the U.S. Department of Ed wasn't requiring it, we'd made a decision early on. We need to know what the state of education is in Mississippi right now. We don't want to go another year. We're going to try and test as many children as we possibly can. We do know we're going to keep the waiver in place that students are not required to meet that passing score in order to be promoted to fourth grade. This has been a very unusual year, and I think our students and our teachers need a little grace where this is concerned. We are going to administer our high school end of course assessments in those 4 areas, but students, once again, as they were last year, are not going to be required to receive a passing score in order to meet high school graduation. And once again, we are not going to be assigning letter grades. We're going to allow those designations to continue through the next year. Our Mississippi Connects, this was huge for us. This was last year when the legislature awarded $200 million through the Senate Bill 3044 and House Bill 1788. We were the only state in the nation that had a comprehensive plan to move to digital learning, because it wasn't just the devices. It was not only the devices, but learning management systems. Some of our districts did not have a learning management system, and that is a platform on which you can load high quality digital content that children can then load onto their laptops, and even if they're not connected, have a way to still engage in the curriculum. We moved to enhance connectivity. This is going to continue to be an issue for Mississippi, because as much as we are as a rural state, we're going to need to continue our focus on expanding connectivity. We also expanded professional development. When everything shut down, we pivoted to PD virtually for all of our teachers and leaders so that we could continue to support them even during the pandemic. And I've been working since spring of last year with the medical people across our state to expand telehealth and teletherapy. Glenn mentioned some of the social and emotional issues our children and teachers and parents, quite honestly, are facing. And so we know we need to expand that. So the Medical Association, the Pediatric Association, the Family Physicians Association, Medicaid, and the University of Mississippi Medical Center and I have all formed a big team, and we are working on that. So hopefully we'll have all of this in place in fall. We purchased almost 400,000 devices for students and teachers. And when we did that, we set up a huge warehouse in Jackson. We unloaded the devices out of the boxes, loaded the software, the security, everything that they needed, put a hardcover on it, put it back in the box, and delivered it to our districts. And so all they had to do was open up the box and they were ready to roll. A lot of districts also purchased hotspots, and also some of our districts even built cell towers so that around the district so that they could get more connectivity. Some of the new resources that we developed as we were pivoting to this virtual environment, we partnered with the MPB and to be able to, Glenn talked about him partnering with the folks on the coast. Well, we partnered with MPB to do the very same thing, use our content teachers in our staff or other teachers around the state to teach lessons aligned to our standards and then publish them every single day. You can see weekdays starting at 7 a.m. Parents and students have access through MPB. Strong Readers, Strong Leaders. This is a website that we have for parents. This is any child that is between the ages of birth and 5. Parents can log on and get all kinds of activities and resources about ways to help their children at home. And there we go. So I love this picture. That little face, and that's so exciting. But we've done a lot, but I've got to say, the superintendents and principals and teachers of this state deserve so much credit. I have a very large teacher advisory council and about 400 teachers that I met with during this pandemic, student advisory council of about 100 students that I met with during this pandemic. And we listened to what they said and tried to provide what they needed. But the leadership on the ground, the boots on the ground, the superintendents leading every day, the principals leading every day, and teachers trying to do the very best that they could for our children, and parents. We cannot say enough about how many parents stepped up, because they were thrown into this just like everybody else was, and they were doing the best that they could to make it happen. So on behalf of the State Department and the State Board of Ed and just me personally, I just want to say thank you to everybody across the state who's been working so hard for our children.
Well, and thank you, Dr. Wright. Mr. Gill and Mr. East were touting you before, and it's, you know, just to see the quantification of the results. I mean, it's such a great message. And going back to your first statement, Mr. Gill, of your conversation with Dr. Kelly and the economic impact that that can have, I think it's definitely a pivoting point that we can be turning around our economic development efforts simply by sharing these messages. I think it definitely would benefit. So let me just say to everyone, if you have questions, we have a little bit of time. There is a Q&A. If you scroll on the bottom, there's a Q&A function that you can add your questions. And then we'll get to that. I've got a couple already. Just listening to the things that were done during COVID. And Mr. East, you mentioned some of the, like finding students that thrived in that digital learning capacity. Do you see other silver linings that have come from this? I mean, I see schools with better connectivity. I mean, do you see us continuing forward with some sort of enhanced or alternate, digital experiences?
I think the answer to that question is yes. I think we would be remiss if we stopped and went back to the old way we were doing business. I think that the face-to-face instruction will be there, but I think we owe it to our families and our communities, and quite frankly, the business world, who is grappling with the same concept of, can I work from home and still be as efficient as coming into an office? I think we've got to begin to train children in that aspect, or teach children in that aspect. So for us, we're trying very hard to put together a virtual academy, trying to go through our district innovation processes to make that happen and move forward. And it may be a small group. It may be 25 to 100, but at least we're providing a chance for opportunity for growth for those families, especially COVID is still, it's not over. I don't know what the over date is, but we want to be able to deal with that and move forward. And I think the other silver lining for us is, and Dr. Wright and Mr. Gill mentioned it, the power of the hardware that we were sent, the focus on and spreading connectivity. Those are all things that, had we not had this pandemic, we probably would have been 10 years away from really fully having a good, strong virtual component.
Right.
And I'd just like to add in, when I mentioned that we put a computer in the hands of over 14,000 students that may never have the opportunity to have that device. And I can tell you, if we are preparing our students for the new world, the world that they will live in, they have to be able to do that. And that our students that was valuable, and our teachers are learning how to do that flipped classroom, to where they are using those computers in the classroom as a more of, you read about the flipped classroom, and for those of you who may not know, the flipped classroom is where the students learn or review the material prior to getting there, and teachers actually go through the activities while they're there. And we've really pushed that a lot, and our teachers are really exploring that. Using the technology in the classroom is phenomenal.
Great. Mr. East, someone in the audience would like you to expand on the virtual academy.
The virtual academy is what we're trying to put together, where we will set up a system where children can be virtually and have math, science, English, and social studies through the virtual concept, just like we're doing now by choice, but it would be a place for those students that we know are being successful in that program moving forward in math, science, English, and social studies, and learning, if you will, from home virtually. Again, we're trying to work through our district innovation processes to do that. So hopefully we'll have, like I said earlier, if we have 25, if we have 100, we want to be able to begin to offer that piece across our state. We won't be the first in that world, Tracy. I got a good friend in Booneville in the north part of the state that is doing that kind of work. The difference in what they're doing and us is more, ours is a little broader right now, trying to expand what they are doing in Booneville. But also we've learned that we have some kids that learn very well in this virtual component. So let's not take that chance away from them. And again, the other silver lining, and Roy has touched on it, if we were back to where we were in March today, this would be a seamless transition for us to begin to try to take care of our kids. I'm also going to spin off what Dr. Wright said, and our parents would not have to be near as involved as they were back in March and April trying to be teachers and run their businesses from home too. So I think that that's a silver lining in the piece, that we are better prepared, that if we would have had to shut down again, that we have perfected our craft over the last year.
You know, just to piggyback on what Glenn just said, one of the things that we're looking at, quite honestly, with the teacher shortage, you know, that we have not only in Mississippi, but nationally, we're also looking to see, are there ways that we can use teachers from across the state to teach children in another part of the state? So for example, if Glen's got this master algebra 2 teacher and there's somebody in another part of the state that's struggling to even find an algebra 2 teacher, could then Glen's teacher virtually teach the same class and a class across the state? And then since the other district would have been given money for a teacher, how about using some of that money to pay Glen's teacher additional money for taking on that class? So this opens up a whole new world when you're talking, because I hear I can't find an advanced placement teacher. You know, I can't find a good chemistry teacher. I hear these things all the time. Well, we've got amazing AP teachers and chemistry teachers across the state. So why not take advantage of this virtual world that we've been thrown into overnight and have other children across the state? Imagine all kids getting access to these amazing people. So that's something that we're looking at right now. And I can tell you that I've got teachers that are very excited about this possibility of being able to do that.
And dovetailing into that, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to learn how to do this and do it right so that we can expand to that larger level. One of your questions is, can they log on from anywhere in the United States? The answer to that question is yes. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the family who may be having a health issue and need to be somewhere else in the country. They don't have to miss a day of instruction. You know, they can get back to us virtually, can give it to schools virtually, and continue to grow and learn. And quite frankly, what we're learning is school is important. So even in the midst of a health crisis, that normal operation of school, being able to be a part of school, helps with that social growth for that child. So rather than having to sit in a waiting room and wait and pace, they could actually be involved with their classmates back on the home front, so to speak. So a lot of ways this can go that over the next few years to really broaden the scope of what education looks like.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Dr. Wright, I think you pretty much hit on this, but maybe summarize the factors you attribute the progress we've seen.
Yeah, I think the key piece for me, I think, is a laser-like focus on instruction. I mean, I think that is the message that I have been really focusing on since I've been here. You know, my heart has been I was a teacher, I think once a teacher, always a teacher, but my heart is in the classroom, and that's where the magic happens. And so we really need to focus on what's happening in the classroom. So for us, when we first started, it was literacy, because we were literally last in the nation. We had so many children that could not read. And so to bring in a research-based professional development program around teaching the foundational skills of reading to all K-3 teachers and administrators, I think that focus of using that and using data, I think is another piece. You know, I think that there's probably both these superintendents are masters at that, and they also work with their teachers to become masters at that. So once we get the results back, then what does that tell us about the children sitting in front of us? And the other thing that I will say is, I've said over and over again, behind every data point is a face. And you've got to drill down to who that is, what they need, because one size does not fit all. If you're talking about students with disabilities, one size does not fit all. If you're talking about African-American children, one size does not fit all. If you're talking about white children, I mean, it's what does each individual child need? And I think the leadership at these districts that we're here and across the state have really taken up that mantle of making sure that our children are learning, they're monitoring their data, and we've been very transparent with the data, which I think is another key piece. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So I think if you're not addressing your areas of need, there are always going to be areas of need. And so I think you've got to own it. You know, we were where we were, we are where we are, and we've got a ways to go where we really ultimately want to be. But we're definitely heading in the right direction because everybody is focusing in the right direction and on the right things. We're not out chasing the next bright, shiny object. We've got a strong foundation. We've got strong goals that we're working on that apply to all children. And we're trying to then make sure that everybody gets recognized for doing the hard work that they're doing.
That's great. And I think that's a great segue to the next question is, realizing that COVID isn't behind us yet, but what do you see as the greatest challenge for schools moving forward? We've got a lot of momentum, but what's still the biggest hurdle right now?
I think right now Glenn touched on it and as did Roy. It's getting a handle on those little ones that really need the help the most. I think that's going to be the biggest piece. When we started the year, we were missing 23,000 children across the state. And we had a massive undertaking to identify where every single child was, because my concern was that they were in a learning environment. Didn't have to be a public learning environment, but it had to be a learning environment. And so we tracked down about 400, and we're still looking for those 400. So we were able to identify that. But the identification then of those children that are struggling the most is going to be critical. I know both of these superintendents have been using progress monitoring. They've been looking at their benchmark data. That's why they're saying to you, they're kind of confident about where they are. But you've really then got to focus on those little ones that need the more help. Glenn talked about summer camps. I'm sure Roy's going to be doing the same kind of thing. After school learning, after school programming. Glenn's going to start a year-round calendar in order to better meet the needs of his families and his students. I think there's no limit to what you can do, but you've got to make sure that you're focusing on the right thing. But on the other hand, you've got also children that are excelling. We can't forget about those kids. Those kids need to be pushed just as much as those little ones need to be pulled, to accelerate their learning. And so what are we doing? How are we exposing more children gaining access and opportunity to advanced placement classes, dual credit, dual enrollment, whatever those international baccalaureate, Cambridge, whatever those things are? We need to make sure that our children are getting access to that, because they can excel just as easily as any child can excel. Some may need more help at doing it, but we've got children that are just, their sky's the limit, right? In other words, turn them loose and they'll fly. So I think it's got to be both. It can't just be one or the other.
Right. We got
I
one
also
more.
worry about, if I may step in, I'm also really worried about our teachers and our staff. We're tired.
Yeah.
And so we got to have some time to rejuvenate. And again, I think that's where our Facebook calendar can help us a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
But we in Gulf, I can only speak for Gulfport on this one. We've got to spend time taking care of the adults who have helped us through this situation this year. So I'm really looking to do some things to help our teachers and our administrators that are in the trench every day making this happen.
That's great. One last thing, because I did mention, we've got a mix of people in the audience. So, and I can relate to this one here. My children are grown, so I'm not as involved in schools as I used to be. How can I, as a business owner or community member, best support my local schools?
Go ahead,
I
Roy.
could jump in, just reach out to us, call the school that you live. We have lots of partners that come in and help. It's amazing what people that they're out of touch. They haven't been involved because their kids are grown. We're always looking to partner with all of our businesses and helping. And if it's nothing but just coming in and sometimes talking with kids and that, I know we've had some restrictions. Our board voted last week to lift some of our restrictions where we begin. One of the things was, as Glenn said, was the 4th 9 weeks to be able to have our awards day program, be able to have our senior events that they did not get to have, and haven't had anything. Some of our high schools have not even had pep rallies. So we did lighten that some so they can begin some of their senior activities. And our businesses, people have, really stepped up and tried to work. I've worked with different ones to help in any way possible. And we ask for all those to step up.
I will say, add to that, Tracy, saying, and as Roy said, call the school, but I will tell you that when you call a Gulfport school, you're going to hear this. We need help with reading. Just taking 30 minutes of your lunch hour once a week to let us sit down with a child or two, read with them, have them read to you. Those are things that we really need. I mean, we appreciate your tax dollars. We don't need we would like your extra money. We're not going to go asking for it, but you're supporting the 11 of us here on the coast very well. So it's really your time. If you could have folks in your office just say, I want to read to a child once a week for 30 minutes, and you share that adult-child relationship piece, that for us is big in the Gulfport School District. That literacy piece is where we have to fight the battle the hardest.
Right. And I think, so I believe you're saying we could do that now.
Yes.
Right. Okay, great.
We'll have you in a mask across the table, but we can do it now.
Yes, we just lifted some of those restrictions.
Yeah, yes. Well, thank you again so much. What this has been, it's been uplifting to see the progress that we've made. Again, I think it's a great message all around for parents, for the economy, and for the coast and the state as a whole. I once again want to thank our sponsors for today: Memorial Hospital, Hancock Whitney, Illy Guild Hardy Architects, The First, BXS Insurance. Thank you so much for your support. I know they all are supporters of our local education schools beyond just this program. So thank you for being a part of this. And I want to wish everybody a great Chamber Day. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.